Hey, what is up guys, 𝐂𝐇𝐀𝐍 here with 𝐲𝐇𝐀𝐄 Gaming. My goal when playing as Survivor in Dead by Daylight has always been to be the best teammate possible. I try to get the generators up and running. I attempt to rescue everyone from the hook, even if that means going for broke for a basement rescue. But being a good guy does have its price, and I can't count the amount of times I've saved everyone from the hook, got 3 or 4 generators up and running, and then I eventually end up getting caught at the end of the match and watch as 3 people go out the gates without even trying to rescue me. Each match of Dead by Daylight is a gamble, especially if you don't know the people you're playing with. The gamble is you don't know what they're going to do, and you don't know how skilled they are. Now, Ace is a gambling man, and he always seems to have Lady Luck on his side, but sometimes luck is just not enough. But there are some questionable things you can do to tilt luck in your favor. These are not tactics that are going to win you Teammate of the Month, though. But just like the old saying goes, all is fair in love and war, and I guess that's even more so when there's a 250-pound maniac chasing you down with a chainsaw. Now, before we go any further, let me stress that I don't condone any of these tactics, and I don't use these tactics. Anyone who's watched me play or has played with me in matches know that I'm a clean player, but I think it's important to have as much information as possible, so in case you come up against someone who's using these types of tactics. The first tactic is used at the very beginning of the match, and that's waiting and hiding and not doing anything at all until someone else gets chased. At the very beginning of a normal match, everyone's going to go out and try to find a generator and start working on it. The killer is going to go from generator to generator looking for survivors. So it's a 50-50 gamble. Is he going to go to the generator you're working on or a generator that someone else is working on? By hiding out and not doing anything at the beginning of the match, you stack those cards in your favor that the killer is going to go find and chase someone else first. And then once the killer starts chasing them, you can go about working on your generator in peace and quiet. There really is no counter to this, especially when you start the match if you don't start around another person, because you don't know where everyone else is and you just don't know what they're doing. The only way I would say to counter this, if you know what's going on, is to do the same thing. But the problem with that is if all 4 people do nothing, then nothing's getting done at the beginning of the match until the killer finds someone. Even though this is a dirty strategy, sometimes it is acceptable to do it, especially if you're using like a brand new part, because you don't want to start working on a generator, get interrupted, and lose the part in the toolbox. The second tactic is when you're being chased, to run the killer to another survivor. This sometimes happens unintentionally, sometimes it's flat out intentional. And I'm not going to lie to you, I've got caught up in a game before, and I have done this intentionally. It's not something I make a habit of, and it's not the first thought that runs into my head at the beginning of the chase. It just sometimes happens. Some players, though, this is a really big part of their game. They do this intentionally, and they will do it over and over. They will automatically take the killer to a generator that they know that someone's working on, and sometimes they even use Dwight's perk Bond to run the killer to the location of survivors that they see are hiding. Now, coincidentally, the counter to this is also Bond, and I talked about that in the best perks video. With Bond equipped, you can see the auras of your teammates, so if someone's running towards you with the killer in tow, you can try to avoid them. The third tactic, imagine this scenario, you are working on a generator with another person, and as soon as that generator is complete, you know it's going to create an audible and visual cue for the killer, and there's a pretty good chance that killer is going to come running in that direction. So what you do is, right before the generator is complete, you quit working on it and you run away, leaving the other player to finish the generator and deal with the killer. Yeah, pretty dirty. And the counter to this is just as dirty. When you see that person later on in the match working on a generator, start working on it and then intentionally fail and run away. Okay, and for the next tactic, you're in a situation where the killer has killed 2 other survivors. It's down to just you and someone else you don't know, and you both have been up on the hook twice, and you know where the hatch is. And there are multiple generators left. Me being the good teammate that I am, I would continue trying to get the generators up. But that is probably not the best play here, since I don't know what the other player is going to do. This is another 50-50 situation, who the killer is going to get, and instead of working on the generators, I should probably just hide. And in this match right here, that is what this other player has done for at least the last 20 minutes. The counter to this is I could go grab the killer and run the killer to them, and hopefully the killer gets them instead of me. But my advice as a player who tries to be a good teammate is get good. While this guy's been hiding for the last 20 minutes, I've managed to elude the killer, get 2 generators up, open the exit gates, and escape. And that other player, well, their luck ran out. Okay, and the last tactic I'm going to talk about is the hook block, and I'm going to approach this from the killer's perspective. You may have seen people do this, or you may have even participated in it, and that's when someone is caught and all the survivors crowd around the hook, crouch down, and they try to block the killer from putting the survivor up on the hook. And then after the person is hooked, they don't leave the hook area. They try to flashlight the killer, or they run in and act like they're going to take the person off the hook. They're just trying to get the killer to swing or trying to confuse the killer. I personally don't understand this because every time I've been a part of it, whether it's as a survivor or as a killer, it normally ends up with everyone dying. Then they end up complaining that the killer is a hook camper. Well, do you blame them? You really didn't give that person a chance to leave the hook area. You followed the killer to the hook, then you never left the hook area, so what do you want them to do? I don't think this is a dirty tactic as much as it is stupid. In my case here, I would have put this person on the hook, and then I would have left and let someone rescue them because I want to hook them again. And after the match was over, they kept messaging me saying I was trash and I was a camper. But you have to look at this from the perspective of a killer. Their objective is to hunt their survivors and transport them to a hook. You have eliminated both of those objectives. There is no hunt because you're all here, and I don't have to transport you to a hook because you're at the hook. From a survivor's perspective, I understand why people do this because they assume the killer is going to camp. So once he puts this player on the hook, he's not going to leave that hook area. So if you're doing this, my advice to you is don't do it at first. Wait and see how a killer plays before going right to this tactic. Not everyone camps, but when you do this from the get-go, you're not giving them the option not to camp. Okay, one more thing I want to talk about, and that's point farming. And if you play enough matches, you're eventually going to run into this. And out of everything I've talked about, this one by far is the dirtiest thing players can do. And it's the only one on this list that is a bannable offense. If you don't know what point farming is, it's where the killer and one or more survivors work together to allow each other to score as many points as possible during a match. Sometimes it's pretty blatant, and other times not as much. You may not even know it's happening. If I suspect it's happening, what I do is I just go about my regular game. I try to get up the generators and escape and just move on. I don't even take the time to report them or anything, even if I do see them doing it. I just avoid them and I don't participate. Now, when I do report them is when they interfere with my game, and you can quite clearly see in this match the other 3 survivors are interfering with my game by blocking me, failing generators, and you can also see during this match I didn't make anything easy on them either. I tried to make everything as difficult as possible. What should you do when you run into a situation like this? You want to most definitely report them and block them. And also, just to be safe, I would record the game so you have proof that you were not a willing participant. Another thing you could do is just quit. But I don't do that because I don't feel that's fair, that I should lose progress due to cheaters. Okay guys, so that's all I have for now. I hope this gives you some insight into dirty play. If you found this video useful, well, maybe I shouldn't say useful, because I don't want to condone using these tactics. If you find this video informational, then hit that thumbs up button. And one last thing before I go. Despite all the questionable crap that goes on in Dead by Daylight, remember, it's just a game. So if you find yourself getting triggered to the point you're on the verge of a pulmonary embolism, you may just want to walk away. Go find another game to play, or just take a break from it for a while. At the end of the day, it's just a game. It's meant to be fun and not taken too seriously. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.